Welcome to the Modern Husbands Podcast, where Dr. Ross, Christian, and Brian host national experts who share ideas to manage money in the home as teammates. Today's guest is Andy Murphy, otherwise known as the Secure Dad. Andy Murphy founded the Secure Dad in 2016, realizing that every parent is a protector. Andy's passion is to help families live safer, happier lives. His Amazon best-selling book, Home Security, The Secure Dad's Guide, has helped thousands of people around the world. Enjoy the show. Hey, Andy, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, man, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on the podcast. I really appreciate the opportunity to write for the website on, the cost of a home break-in, that sort of thing. So, I appreciate being a part of this.
Well, we want to make sure that husbands out there are equipped with the knowledge that they need to make sure that they can protect their family. And I really love the Secure Dad and everything that you're doing. I know Christian and Dr. Ross, unfortunately, are traveling today. They wanted to make this, but they're going to certainly tune in. And I know our listeners are going to be excited about this. So I know one of the questions that they wanted to start with right away was just how can husbands enhance the security of their homes without, breaking the bank, without spending a fortune?
Yeah, there's this kind of this theory going around that in order to protect your house, you have to spend money. Spending money wisely is important, but that's not necessary to starting to secure your home. The most of the things that I talk to people about initially with protecting their home are actually free things that you can do. And number one is you've got to take ownership of the security of your house. Like, you are the man of the home. It is your job. This is what you do. So you need to take ownership of the fact that this is your home, your family's here. You're going to need to be able to protect it. Yes, the police will be there, but somebody's got to call the police first. So you are your own first responder in this situation. Own up to the fact that this is your responsibility. If you're not comfortable with that thought, I wasn't too when I was a new husband. I remember sitting in bed, in our first house, staring up at the ceiling, thinking to myself, man, what am I going to do if somebody breaks in right now? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where this whole thing started for me. It was, this is a problem, and I am absolutely going to work on it now. Mm-hmm. From then, you just kind of want to talk about what your mindset is going to be about it. How far are you willing to go to protect your family while everybody thinks, oh, I should probably just dig this huge moat around my house and fill it with alligators, that sort of thing. But that's not reality. When you start to secure your home, a big thing is you don't want to make your house feel like a prison, because nobody's going to want to live in a prison. So you've got to find that balance for your family, your neighborhood, your home. And that is all things that you can do from the ground. I do highly recommend that people get alarm systems. It can be something very simple. You can install it yourself, or you can spend, thousands of dollars having somebody else to come in and do it, whatever your comfort level is. But I absolutely do think an alarm system is good, because it's a good backup for you. If you are sleeping heavy one night and somebody kicks in that door and you want that alarm to go off, you want the police to be alerted, you want all of that sort of stuff working for you in that moment. So yeah, if you're going to spend money first on anything, I would consider putting up an alarm system.
That makes sense. Is there, obviously there's going to be a wide range of what an alarm system would cost.
Right.
What, for people that are frugal but also want to prioritize safety, what's the range?
You can, I don't use Simply Safe in my house, but I do like Simply Safe a lot. And that is, you can go and buy, the base station, the keypad, the sensors for the doors and the windows, and you can continue to add on to that as your budget allows. Okay. So if you're going to do something like that, get the base station and the keypad. That's usually like the core package with anybody, even with Ring, and Ring is good as well. But then you can just kind of expand out once you have your main points of entry covered, your front door, back door, garage door, things like that. Once you have those covered, if you're on a budget, then you can move to like a motion sensor, the O2 sensor, smoke alarm, that sort of thing. So you can really probably get started for around $300 and then just build as you go. As long as you can use double-sided tape and add something, a device to your Wi-Fi, you're good to go. You can install your own system.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Mm-hmm. So what are the top 3 must-have security measures every family should implement to protect their home and loved ones?
I'm going to say the first thing that you need to do is understand that you can be the victim of a crime. This follows up with the ownership thing I was just saying a little while ago. You want to understand that, while you are a good person, your family are good people, you live in a good community, bad things still happen in good places. So understand that you can be the victim of a crime. Even me, I've written a book on home security. Somebody could still try to kick in my front door in the next hour. I'm not even immune from this. So I have to understand that it's not a perfect world, just because, I'm employed, my wife's employed, we have thankfully, money to cover the bills. Not everybody else does. So they're going to do desperate things. So that's one of the things you got to understand is as good as you are, as a wonderful of a person that you are, somebody could still target you for a crime. So that's like one of these big wake up things. Another thing that you want to understand is that you need to pass this sort of stuff on to your children. We can talk about more about this a little bit later, but make sure that you're setting a good example for them. Make sure they see you locking the doors, locking the windows, being responsible in that way, because this is generational. My dad was really good about, making sure that our home was safe when we were gone on vacation. So that was passed down to me. I passed that down to my son, plus what I've done. And so hopefully he's going to take it, a step further to protect his family in the future. So those are all the things that you can implement today. And those are free of charge, but those are also kind of difficult conversations to have, because nobody wants to sit down and talk about this, Brian. Nobody wants to sit here and say, hey, let's talk about how somebody's going to break in.
Yeah.
That's not what anybody wants to talk about. That's not really polite dinner conversation. But we as parents, especially as men, especially as dads and husbands, we have got to have these conversations with our kids, because if we don't, nobody else may. And they may be blindsided by something that happens in their life, and we don't want that to happen. So, have those conversations, be involved in their lives, make sure that they understand that their safety is their own responsibility.
Yeah, well said. So, we spent so far all of our time just talking about our physical home, but as we know, it's not just our physical home we're trying to protect anymore, right? It's this world of increasing digital threats. So, what steps can families take to secure their smart home devices and protect their privacy?
Sure. This is an ever growing question. I swear it changes every single week. What's
Mm.
what's the best thing to do for privacy? What app is now doing this? Where was there a data breach? That sort of thing. With any of your devices, whether it's your smartphone or a smart speaker, make sure that it's running the latest operating system.
Okay.
Apple will, I have an iPhone. It's somewhere here on my desk, and I will get an alert that says, "Hey, there's a new security update for your smartphone. Go and update that," because they have usually come across some sort of problem that needs a patch, and that patch is going to keep you from being vulnerable to whatever it is that's going on. So trust the manufacturer in their updates and what they're doing. Another thing is, this is with your Wi-Fi router. This is going to probably upset some people. You have to change your default password on all of the electronics that you buy. So if you have like a Netgear and the username is admin, and the random password that they gave you is like, I don't know, blue car, like, oh, hey, that's great. Nobody's going to guess that. Well, that same password is on like 2,000 other devices
Right.
in your state alone. And there's a database. You could go and Google, your router and what are the passwords for it, and you can just try to plug it in yourself. It's meant for people who've forgotten. So if you have something that has a default password, change it to something that is unique, so that nobody can go through and pretend to be you and change all your settings and do all that sort of thing.
Oh, I had not considered that you can just Google whatever the default password is, and then if you're a digital thief, you can. Wow, that's kind of scary to think about.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the thing that's out there. I actually, me being me, having the Secure Dad podcast, I'm always doing research on these things. And it's amazing what just an innocent Google search will, show you about, oh, wow, if I wanted to use this information the wrong way, I absolutely could use it the wrong way. And that's, kind of where hackers are born, when teenagers go out and they look at Google, it's like, oh, wow, this is actually kind of easy, that sort of thing. one other thing that I'll suggest, since we talked earlier about, having your own or installing your own alarm system. If you're going to do that, I want you to actually segregate your alarm system to your guest Wi-Fi. Make sure that it has all the security enabled. It has its own unique, very hard password, because if somebody gets into one side of your Wi-Fi, they might not be able to get into the other. Sometimes you can network through a camera, through an exploit that goes to anything else that's on that network. If you have them separated, the better off you're going to be. So just have one that strictly runs everybody's iPad and the TV and all that sort of stuff, and then have one that's just a little bit more secure, that has a harder password, that sort of thing, so that they are separate. In case of a breach, you don't lose both.
That's great advice. I'm going to use that advice myself. So with obviously the rise of package theft, right, with Amazon, what are some practical solutions and preventive measures that families can take to safeguard these deliveries?
Sure. So there's a very simple answer to this, but it's a pain. And that is to just go get your own mailbox at a local mailbox store or at, the postal service, and just have them deliver it there. Actually, I don't even think the postal service will take anything that doesn't fit in the box. So I would just go to a local company and just, pay them, I don't know, like $60 a year, and have everything delivered there. Because you can put up cameras. And for a lot of these porch pirates, I hate porch pirates. I've done like 3 episodes on how much I hate porch pirates on my podcast. We see all this great video of somebody just putting on a hoodie and cinching it down, running up to, grab the package and then running away. And you have great footage of it, but you're not going to get anybody's face. Maybe you get a car. Maybe you can talk to your neighbor across the street and say, hey, can you check your cameras at this time? Maybe this person came by earlier and I can get a license plate from your angle, that sort of thing. So really the solution is don't have packages sent to your home. That's the thing. But if you do have to have it sent to your house, which I completely understand, try to make sure, if it's a big important thing, like I once had to order an iPhone from Apple. So I stayed home that day and I was waiting for that package to be, delivered. So that if it was a big important thing, I was going to make time to go and get it. But if you have a busy lifestyle, you live far from home, that sort of thing, probably just one of these, shipping solutions kind of place. That's going to be one of those things you could do. UPS store is also a good one.
Yeah, that could reduce Amazon spending too, right? That's just one more barrier.
It could. I'll tell you another tip to reduce Amazon spending: delete the app off your phone.
Right.
Yeah, you have to go upstairs and get the laptop and then order something. You'd be surprised how much stuff you don't need by the time you make it to your office.
Yeah, no, that's a good hack in financial psychology. Or to take out all the autofill, like where you have to go in and read the credit card.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah, those help. So summer vacations are obviously a prime time for burglaries. So what tips can you provide to ensure families can enjoy their holidays relatively worry-free?
Sure. So the easiest thing that you can do is try to not talk about your trip, coming up before you go, and then don't post about it while you're away. So, if you live in, Denver, Colorado, but all of a sudden you're posting pictures at a white sand beach somewhere, people are going to figure out you're not home, that sort of thing. So while you're like, oh, I only have like close friends on Facebook, or only on, I only have trusted people on Twitter, you really don't. So, people who will see these sorts of things and understand it, even if it's your neighbor's kid might say, hey, I bet they've got some pretty good medications in the medicine cabinet. I'm going to go break in and take a look at that. That's a huge thing for just local crime, is somebody's going to break out a back window and they're just going to run up to your medicine cabinet and see what's there, if there's any cash laying on a table, that sort of thing. That's what they're going to be going for. It's not these huge, diamond thieves are going to break into your house. It's probably going to be the teenage kid down the street, that sort of thing. But I will give you a piece of advice that I use for myself. I'm one of these people that when I leave the house, I'm like, did I close the garage door? Did I turn off the oven? Because I have this image in my head that I've turned on all of the gas burners on the stovetop and they're just going full blast. And I somehow left my house, thinking that was okay. But that's kind of where like the paranoia kind of comes in. So I will take a picture of my back door, my front door, all these things to say, yes, I did lock the back door. Yes, I did lock the front door because I have it here on this picture that I took just before I walked out.
That's smart.
That sort of thing to help give you that peace of mind that you're looking for.
Yeah, I like that. I never would have considered that. In all fairness, my wife is the one who tends to worry more about that than me. But yeah, I mean, we talked about this earlier, but security cameras give me a little bit of peace of mind because I've got them everywhere. So at least I know if somebody's going to break in, I'm going to get a notification.
Right.
But the idea of just not posting until you get back. I mean, just that alone
Mm-hmm.
is so smart. And I'd heard that years ago. We just got back from vacation, and we did the same thing. And sometimes you want to share with the world, some beautiful picture or a happy memory or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and you just gotta make sure that you have the willpower to just wait until you get home and then post them after that. That's great advice.
Right. And one of the things that we did the last time we went to Disney was I just decided I was just going to text my parents pictures because, yeah, I did have that excitement. I wanted to share. I wanted them to see their grandchild. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to, when we sit down to lunch, I'm going to pick like 3 pictures. I'm going to text that day. And mentally, that kind of acts like a social media
I
post.
like
I get to share that. I get that gratification. They get that gratification. But it's just a close text message. And of course, my parents know they are not going to share that on social media while I'm gone, that sort of thing. So that's something that might help you.
Oh, I love that. What a great way to scratch that itch. How long have you been doing that?
I started probably doing that about 3 years ago. I figured it out about the time that the pandemic hit and everything shut down. I was like, wow, this is a great thing that I'm not using right now. So
A quick moment of appreciation for our sponsor, Money Marriage University, who delivers self-paced online courses for couples designed by national therapy and financial planning experts. Money Marriage U experts understand how to help couples hurting from arguments and tension around money. Money Marriage U offers a wide variety of online courses at different price points. Take your first step toward healing your pain by visiting moneymarriageuniversity.com. Once again, you can learn more at moneymarriageuniversity.com. Now back to the show.
So when you are trying to decide where to live, which is, probably one of the, I don't know if it would be considered the most important or certainly most substantial choices that you make in your life, like where you want to raise your family. There's all these considerations, right? Like your distance from work, assuming you don't work remotely anymore, or maybe you work, hybrid environment, the quality of the schools. But one of the criteria typically is how safe, the neighborhood is. So, how do you try to figure out how safe? How can you assess how safe a neighborhood is? Other than just the surface, right? Other than just kind of like driving around, are there any hacks that you can recommend?
Sure. So one of the things that you can actually do is talk to a police officer and say, hey, I'm looking at a home in this neighborhood. Do you guys get a lot of calls there? And they're going to be saying, oh, no, we get the occasional, oh, there's a raccoon in my attic kind of call. But no, nothing major there. So talk to the people that really know what's happening in that area. So that's not a big deal. Normally police are happy to help as long as you're, as long as they're, not in the middle of a traffic stop and you're interrupting them to ask your question, you're going to be fine. Another thing that you can look for is there's always a telltale sign, no matter what socioeconomic level you're at, your gender, your ethnicity. It doesn't matter if there are like 5 cars parked on the lawn of a house. Generally, nothing good is happening in that house. Okay? It doesn't matter. Nothing good is happening in that house. So that's just something that you kind of want to look for. What's the level also that people are keeping their yards up? Is everybody's grass mowed? Does somebody have, an award-winning rose garden, out in the front of their home, that sort of thing? Those are all kind of signs that says, okay, the people here really care about how their property looks. So that's going to be a deterrent. Also, if you're not near any like big sort of intersections, if you're not near the interstate, those sorts of things, believe it or not, your location to an interstate for all sorts of businesses, for banks, for homes, for stores. Criminals come in off the interstate, they rob you, they take whatever, they get right back out on the interstate, and they're in another place, another zip code very quickly. So kind of look for your proximity to big roads and things like that. If you're a little bit off the beaten path, but not too far, that's kind of the sweet spot.
Wow, we lived in a neighborhood in Ohio that it was really nice and friendly, and checked all the right boxes, with the exception of how easy it was to get on and off two major highways, which was for us, something that was important because we wanted to be close to everything and have easy access to everything. But there actually was a couple of robberies in the neighborhood. And one of my friends is a sheriff, and he's like, yeah, that's why, because of like kind of your proximity. And we just were lucky in both instances. Actually, the neighbors did, stop the guy and then called the police. And I, when we were trying to figure out where to live, and this was actually, again, when I was in Ohio, we moved to this location, but we were looking at other locations. And I found a house that was super affordable, and it was kind of out of whack with the rest of the houses kind of in that area. So I did a sexual predator search.
Very good. Very good.
There was like a sexual predator two houses down, and I had young kids, and I just thought, man, for a million reasons, I don't care if this house is free. I'm just not living here. And I was just beside myself with where these people live. There, it doesn't matter if you have a nice neighborhood, a crappy neighborhood, they're everywhere. Yeah, so that was pretty, because I'm oftentimes too naive, and that really opened up my eyes to some evil. But I just wanted to throw that one in there because I'm
absolutely, it's great.
So why do we need to think about protecting our family, and how can we kind of like generally boost the security of a home? So why is it really that important? And just what are some things that you haven't discussed yet that you want to share about boosting the security in our home?
Sure. So I kind of touched on this a little while ago and talking to our kids, but it's important for us to understand that our safety is our own responsibility. Like we can't we can't just, shove that responsibility off on first responders. Well, yeah, the police are going to come, fire is going to come, EMS will be there. It's up to us to do something first. Police officers are not going to just magically appear every time that there is a problem. That's just not going to happen. So we have to be aware of the fact that, when something goes wrong, we're going to be the first ones to do something about it. Even if it's, our child choking at a restaurant, the closest person to our kid is us, because we're sitting at the same table with them. We need to know how to deal with that situation, or at least manage it to the best of our ability, even if you don't have the perfect solution. So by thinking about what you're going to do in advance of these sorts of problems, you will execute much better when it actually happens in reality. So if you sit and you think about, okay, what would a home invasion look like? Where would I tell my family to go? How would we respond? Those sorts of things. You can actually make a plan, just like you would, a fire escape plan. What you're going to do in the event of, a home invasion, that sort of thing. Because knowing what to do when danger strikes and executing that plan is great. When something goes wrong, that's not the time to make a plan. That's not the time to try to formulate what to do. The planning stage is all done days, weeks, years beforehand. That's the time for action. And anytime you delay that action, the worst things are going to be for you and your family, no matter what it is, even if it's a tornado, those sorts of things. If you haven't planned for it, if you haven't talked about it, you're not going to be able to take action, and that's going to put you in a bad situation very quick. Yeah. So you love your family. You want them to be safe. You don't want to have to see them upset, crying, potentially, bleeding, those sorts of things. Think about it while it's safe, what you're going to do, and then coach your family on it so that if it does happen, everybody knows how to respond. Everybody takes action, because it's a real team effort to protect your family. You want your kids to be able to potentially spot trouble before it happens. I've had my son come to me a couple of times and just says, that guy's interesting over there. Like, he can't quite put into words what it is that he's seeing, but I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to watch this guy too. And he actually spotted somebody that I believe was shoplifting at the time. While that wasn't necessarily a threat to us, he noticed that odd behavior and he told me about it. And so then we were able to make a decision about what to do. Of course, we just kind of left it alone because that doesn't harm us. That's not what we're doing. We're not, inventory control for this store. That's not what we're here to do. So, making sure that your family is all on the same page and all supporting you and all with you, that's fantastic. And when you have these conversations, don't scare your kids, don't scare your spouse. Don't say, oh, some psycho murderous clown is breaking into all these houses. What are you going to do? Let's talk about it like adults. Let's talk about it in a way that is going to be a reality, in a way that's not going to scare people. You don't want to scare your family. You want to empower them. That's what you're supposed to do as a dad and as a husband, is to protect and empower.
And you're talking about you're hanging out with your son, and he spotted some unusual activity. Speaking of hanging out with your kids, when you are trying to help them understand how to be safe online, now with social media being such an important presence in the lives of most teens, how do you approach that conversation? What are some tips that our listeners can walk away with?
Sure. So, I mean, it's a big conversation, and it really is. It depends on, where your teen is in their life, what they can understand, what they're emotionally ready for, those sorts of things. You can generally just say to them, hey, we don't share personal information like what school you go to. Nobody needs to know what your full name is. Nobody needs to know, where we live. Nobody needs to know where your bedroom is in the house, those sorts of things. And you can just coach them on, hey, those are red flags. If those sorts of things happen, come and talk to me about it, and we're going to deal with it. Let them know that no one should be asking you for pictures without your clothes on or in your underwear, things like that. Those are big red flags. Please, drop your phone and come to me if that sort of thing happens. Don't be afraid to have these conversations. Like we said earlier, they are very uncomfortable. This is not, dinner time conversation, but this is stuff that's got to happen. Tell your kids to trust their gut. If they think that something is wrong or that something is up, to come to you or discontinue that conversation. But shoot them straight about what the actual threats are to them. I've seen too many stories of bright young people who make a mistake. They take a picture that they shouldn't have, and they are extorted by a blackmailer. It's called sextortion. And that young person feels like, I can't bring this embarrassment to my family. I can't look my mom or dad in the eye and tell them that I did this, because they're just going to be so disappointed, and they end up taking their life. And I tell you what, I don't care about the level of embarrassment. I don't care. I love my child. I want my child to be safe, that sort of thing. So you have to establish with them in advance that, hey, you might make a mistake online. I still want you to come talk to me, because we're still going to solve it. Yeah, there may be a consequence for it, but we're going to work through this together because we are on the same team. It's our family versus the internet. And it's always going to be that way, but we're always on your side.
I like how you put that. We're all on the same team. It's us versus the internet. I love that. So where can our listeners learn more about the Secure Dad and the Secure Dad podcast?
Sure. So you can find me at thesecuredad.com. Everything is there. Feel free to follow me on Instagram or Twitter with the username TheSecureDad. The Secure Dad podcast drops every Wednesday on all the major platforms. I have solo shows, and then I have interviews just like you and I are talking, Brian, where I will talk to some sort of a subject matter expert on things that are well above, my intelligence level, and they're breaking down crimes or how the human brain works or how, we can protect our family, and we're all learning together.
Love it. Well, I know that I'm a subscriber. I follow you, and I hope that we can continue this relationship, because I know our listeners and those who visit Modern Husbands appreciate what you share, either through articles or this podcast. So, Andy, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, thank you, Brian. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for joining today. If you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. We know this is something you often hear, but it truly helps grow our support so we can work to support others. And one final thanks to our sponsor, Money Marriage University. Take your first step today toward healing your pain by visiting moneymarriageuniversity.com. Until next time, be well.